Alright, we're back here with this amp chassis. I've got everything drilled, so you can see, oops, lost our capacitor there. Everything is drilled out, all the controls have been made, the power socket there. You can see it's put kind of low to clear the filter cap stuff. This hole is a little difficult. It's kind of a large hole for the indicator lamp, but you can see it's not super clean. I had to file it down to get it to the right size. I don't have a step drill that goes up to that big, so it doesn't look great there. But you know, once this is in here, you won't be able to see it at all. The other thing that was kind of a pain was this these power tube sockets here, these 9-pin power tube sockets. I used a knockout punch, which is a cheap piece of junk that I got from Harbor Freight, and it totally bent up the steel around here. Anyway, that's probably not the way I'm going to do this in the future, but it worked fine, and the diameter of the holes is okay, so you know, whatever. I just had to do a lot of filing to get it to look normal. I also did all of the socket retention holes, and then also the filter cap retention holes. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand this all down, take all this stuff out, sand it down, finish the front panel, and then once that's all dried up, I'll actually put these parts in here. So the sockets, the filter caps, the pots, all that stuff, and then get it ready for when we populate the turret board. I can just stick it in there and start wiring everything up. Yeah, so on to that. Alright, back here with this amp, I've made some progress. You can see, I think the last video I showed was me drilling kind of the holes for the front panel controls. You can see I've got the knobs and the labels, and I painted it this kind of, I don't know if you can see that, but it's like a spray paint hammer tone gold, amber light. So everything looks okay on the front here. Yeah, pretty cool. And then this is kind of the next step, is to get all of the off-board components stuffed in here. So I've got all of the tube sockets, so the power tube sockets, and then the preamp tube sockets. And then I still have to, I put the transformers in, but I also need to put in some tags, just so I have an intermediate tie-off point for some of these really short leads. For the transformers, and then probably also another one maybe up here, so I can get components down to the off-board components down to the tube sockets, and those will just be wired point to point. Bias pot, another little lug for the bias power supply. The leads, or the lugs for the sockets, you can see are very close to the, well, I don't know, maybe you can't see them, but they're pretty close to the pots there, which makes me a little nervous. They are clearing, and the ones that are closest to this pot are the filament lug, so that should be easy to wire up beforehand, so there's no interference kind of issues there, but a little closer than I'd like. Typically, these are, I think, a little taller than I normally get the Belton ones, but these ones are a little bit taller, so I think those lugs come closer to interfering with the pot casing. Power supply is a little crowded. It should be fine. The rectifier board is not. I have to put a bunch of diodes in here, so I haven't screwed that in yet. But yeah, it's coming along. So next section will be stuffing the turret board with the parts, and then we'll wire all of the flying leads. And then from there, we actually keep this out of the chassis, and we wire up everything that we possibly can. Like a lot of the power supply will end up being wired up, the filaments, the indicator lamp, even some of the transformer and the output components here. We can wire all that stuff up before we get the board in. Just makes it a little bit easier more manageable to work around all those wires. So, yep, stuff the components, drill some extra turrets in here, or a tag board in there, and getting close, getting pretty close. Yeah. Okay, I've made some progress here. I can take this out. Done some of the off-board wiring. This is the input grid stopper resistor. All the pots are in here. I've got some of the power supply wired up. Yeah, you can see, maybe you can come around and see this. That's the rectifier board in there. And that goes into these filter caps. I haven't wired up any of the main stuff yet, which would be the switch, the socket, and the fuse. And that's just because you can see it's kind of tight in here, so I want to be able to access the filter caps down there, because I have to eventually solder down in there to get a wire off of these caps to the preamp. So I'll probably do the mains wiring last, which is kind of out of order of what I normally do. You can see the filament tap off the transformer is going to this yellow wire, and then that will come over and go into the circuit board, and then from there it'll get wired into the tubes. Yeah, and then the first two nodes from the power supply are wired up to, I don't know if you can see that there. Those are the screen resistors, and then the current sensing resistors down there. Yeah, I split the current sensing resistors, so because I've got a bunch of these Russian 6P 1P power tubes. What we can do is we can test a few and see which ones are better matched for plate current, just so we don't have huge current mismatches, some asymmetry on the transformer, output transformer. Speaking of which, the output transformer is pretty much done, wired up. I have to get a feedback wire back to the circuit board, but it goes to this jack, which I had to shim with that that switch control plate. Yeah, so the next step here is going to be populating this turret board, and then bolting it in from the last time, and then getting it all wired up. It's looking pretty decent, pretty clean.